You're listening to the Learn Like a CPA podcast, where we talk about all things real estate, tax strategy, and personal finance. Whether you're a real estate investor looking to scale your portfolio, or you're an individual wanting to take your financial freedom journey to the next level, this is a podcast for you. Hey everyone, before we get into the podcast today, I want to tell you about a brand new educational opportunity that I'm offering. Coming up in February, I'm releasing a comprehensive tax course for short-term rental investors. This course is designed to teach you everything you need to know to make confident tax decisions that will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your investing journey. Listeners of the Learn Like a CPA show can use the promo code PODCAST20 to receive 20% off of the course. To learn more, go to the link in my show notes and you can sign up for the pre-launch. There you will be notified when the course drops. And now let's get into the show. Hey guys, today I had the honor of interviewing Zasha from Invest with Zasha. She has a background as an engineer. She became a flipper and then eventually in 2020 left her engineering job to become a full-time flipper, real estate investor, entrepreneur, capital raiser, you name it in the real estate space. She's probably done it. In our interview, we talked about her background, how it transitioned into becoming a flipper, and then we talked about what are some of the things that she's doing currently. We are partnered together on an RV/campground deal where we're raising money from other people to be able to invest into this campground. We talked about some of the various tax strategies that we're curious to implement in some of our businesses, as well as what we're most interested to see happening in 2023. So without further ado, let's jump right into the episode.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me on. We connected because we are actually partnering on a project, so really excited for that. But my name is Zasha Smith. I'm a full-time real estate investor. Prior to investing in real estate, I was a civil engineer for 10 years and wanted to kind of get out of the rat race, the 9 to 5. I wanted more flexibility and time freedom. And so I found real estate investing, bought my first flip, first rental, netted $103,000 off my first flip while I was only making $70,000 as an engineer, working 60 to 70-hour weeks. So that's when the light bulb went off and I knew I had to make this full time. So when I first started, I was working at my job while investing on the side. And then in 2020, I decided to quit my job altogether, go all in right before the pandemic. However, I think things happen for a reason. I ended up buying 2 multifamilies, a 4-unit and a 2-unit that year. And that kind of catapulted me to realize the power of passive income. Last year, I flipped over 17 homes, and this year I have about 8 more in progress through partnerships and just learning and growing every year. I also hit my passive income goal. I'm gross over $26,000 a month for my rentals, but that comes out to about $10,000 a month net. And now getting into RV parks, bigger 100 to 200 unit apartment buildings, and just learning to leverage teams, people, and my time so that I don't have to spend so much time working. But that's the gist about me where I'm at right now.
So you touched on a little bit about the timing. So how long between when you were working as a W-2 and you got into real estate investing until you ultimately, you said in 2020 you left to do this full time? How long did it take you to get there?
It probably took me about a year. So right after I turned 30, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I didn't really take action after that. I was still trying to figure out, for me, I thought that you had to qualify for conventional loans in order to start investing in rentals and flips. I didn't really have any guidance on how you would qualify to have more money to buy more units. And so I took a little bit longer. And then in 2019, I decided to buy my first rental and my first flip, leverage conventional loans because me and my husband both had very good W-2s. And then after that, we didn't qualify for any more. So I was like trying to figure out how we could buy more without qualifying. And that's when I found out about private money and hard money and kind of navigated into that through Bigger Pockets. And then in 2019, towards the end, I ended up joining a mentorship. And that really allowed me to scale, give me the confidence to then quit my job in 2020.
So you bring up a good point that I have the conversation with a lot of clients as well as a lot of friends in the space of not giving up that golden goose of your W-2 income to qualify for loans, because having gone through it personally as a self-employed person, it's almost like Chinese to some banks that see self-employed income as opposed to W-2 income, and being able, you see it, entrepreneurs make this, I think it's a mistake of quitting too early, and then now their financing is kind of out of the water.
Right. And it was also proof of concept, right? Because I did
Mm.
my first flip, made, more than I made in a year at my job. But I was also thinking, okay, is this a one-off? Did I just get lucky? Is this, did everything just align for this one thing? And so I wanted that to have more passive income, because just in case I didn't find another flip like that, I wanted to make sure my passive income made up for my active income as an engineer as well. So taking those things into consideration whenever you're thinking, oh, I want to quit my job, it's like you can, but to have a plan in place. So one, figure out what your financial risk tolerance is, and then also what you're comfortable with financially living off of. Like, really look at your income, your expenses, where you can cut back. I think I've always grown up frugal because I did live in affordable housing growing up. I was raised by a single mom. She made me, I remember this clear as day. I asked her if I could buy new clothes for, I think it was my sophomore year. I said, Mom, I want to go to Macy's. I want to buy new clothes and things like that. And she said, well, we have no money. I said, how do you have no money? And she said, well, here's my checkbook. You can balance it. And so she had me start to balance the checkbook, write it down old school. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, she gets this check, it goes to the mortgage, goes to utilities, goes to food. And what was left over was really minimal. And so that kind of was an eye opener for me. And so ever since growing up like that, whenever I spend my money on things, I make sure that it's going to be worth the amount of time it took just to make that money. So I think everybody has their own kind of tolerance and financial goals,
Mm.
but you really got to take a step back and look where you're at. And then also for your tax wise, right? It's like I made 103 net, but that was net after expenses and all that, not net after I had to pay taxes on that. And so when you come to realize, okay, if I'm going to make this huge amount of active income, I also have to have this passive income or passive investments or other investments to offset that income. So you're not paying, 40% to taxes. And so I think also having a tax strategy along with financial strategy as well is a huge play in this space.
Mm-hmm. One more thing we'll touch on before we get into just some current updates of what we have going on is, you mentioned leaving in 2020. Did you have any other friends that also had the same sort of come to life moment of, I remember in 2020 with the pandemic happening and just companies laying employees off left and right, and it didn't seem like you had control of your own destiny. How much of that, how much of your, and this happened to me. I mean, without the pandemic, I don't think I'd been able to leave my job, because I would have had to have been in the office 24/7. I wouldn't have been able to scale on the side and kind of do what I was doing. So how much of you leaving do you think was attributable to kind of what happened in 2020?
Well, I basically had no choice because January
Mm.
31st was when I was the last day at work. And so the pandemic kind of happened a few months after that, but I was already under contract for a 4-unit property. I had only, worked on condos before that, got a rental as a condo and a flip. So, jumping to this huge project, it was $200,000 around there for the renovations, 4 units, was a huge jump from like a 700 square foot condo. And so I think I just put myself in that position. And I've also always, persevered through things, but it was so out of, for me, the friends that I was around and my coworkers, we always talked about like, oh, one day I'm going to quit. One day I'm going to do my own thing. And we always had these like grand dreams and ideas, but nobody really acted on it. And so even as 2020 came and everybody was like more working from home and things like that, I think it all depends on your reason why. Like, why do you want to do it?
Mm.
It's like, oh, I want to do something different just because I want to do something different. And you never really take that next leap, I guess, of faith in yourself because you think, oh, but I have it so good here. Oh, but they're paying for my health insurance and I get retirement. So you get comfortable, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with working your 9 to 5. But if it isn't your passion or, doesn't fulfill you, and you want something different, you're gonna have to change it up. And I think a lot of people are scared of changing it up. And even with the pandemic coming around, for me, it just made me realize that nothing is kind of set in stone, right? Companies started shutting down. That fourplex that I talked about that I ended up having to take on, I was going to wholesale it to a doctor who wanted to fix it up for traveling nurses that were coming in for his practice, but he ended up shutting down his business. So that was kind of, a light bulb for me, another light bulb moment that was like, oh my gosh, like companies can just shut down, especially if you're not making any money and nobody, everybody's working from home now. That's saving them a little bit of money, but they still have bills to pay. They still got to pay for their rent for their business building. They have to pay utilities, business insurance. So everything that we have to pay for ourselves, on top of that, these business owners are having to pay for that for their business. And I think we all get comfortable, or I got comfortable because I was a simulator for 10 years. It wasn't like I just started and I switched up the game. Like I was 33 when I quit my job. And so I'm already living my life. I have a family. I have 2 kids, a husband. We have a house. We have a lot going for us that could potentially be risks if things didn't work out for me as an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor. And so we kind of took smaller steps in me investing and buying these flips or buying these rentals while still working, because I knew I could always, still have my job if it didn't work out. So I think it's just a different mindset. And I think differently than a lot of people. Some people get caught up in analysis paralysis as well. And a lot of my friends did that. And investors that I talk to now that are just getting started and wanting the change, they could want it so bad, figure out why they want to do it because they want to spend way more time with their kids, but they get stuck in the what ifs, or if did I read my numbers correctly? Oh my gosh, inflation and recession is coming. And, if you get caught up too much in the noise, I feel like that might hinder you from achieving these goals or taking that next step.
That, what you said right there with the what if, that was so important for me. Is every single step of the way, it seemed like that I always had somebody, whether it was a family member or a friend, always in my ear about, well, what if things don't go right? Or, what if, what if you don't make as much money? Or what if, when I bought my first house hack / rental, it was, well, what if the, furnace goes out and I have this major expense? And then, when I thought about leaving my job to go full time in business, it was, well, what if you can't afford to pay for stuff? And I'd never had anybody back then to tell me, what if it was better than you ever could imagine? And so when I spoke in Vegas last month, this is kind of the story that I was telling, was I never had that person to tell me that it could be better than you ever imagined, and to kind of push you, make you take that next leap. Of course, it has to be well thought out, and you have to have emergency funds, and you have to have proof of concept, like you had mentioned before. But I'm now, and I'm sure you are too, able to be that person for somebody else to say, teach them, hey, well, what if it was better than you could ever think it would have been?
Definitely. And I think, that's where you come from as well, is I feel like more people need those people, those visionaries in their life, to show them what's possible, to show them like, hey, I know it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. However, you can do it. And this is what I was talking about on a few podcasts that I was on, is that it's not in it, what we're doing on these podcasts is summarizing our journey, right? It hasn't always been easy. There's people that you love that are closest to you that might they're worried for you. It's not like they're trying to be negative. They just want to make sure that you succeed. And that fear, their own fear of you not succeeding, comes off from them to you. So even for me, my mom, she's my biggest supporter and I love her. And I definitely am the oldest out of 3 kids. So I'm probably going to end up taking care of her. But she, even to this day, when I talk to her, I'm like, hey, I just went to this thing. And she's like, keep your feet on the ground, stay humble. Don't let all this, these big money people change you. And it's like, I kind of roll my eyes, but she knows and I know, and she's just like trying to make sure that I don't change too much. But I told her, and this is what I tell a lot of people, is that it's not about the amount of money that you make. That doesn't really change you. It just amplifies who you already are. So if you're a giving person, it'll amplify how much you can give back. If you are one to just want to grow your company and concentrate on your own self, that's fine too. But that'll show us when you come into this amount of money, that will reflect that. So it's, people always think about money as being like, if you're making a lot of money, it might be a bad thing, but it can be a good thing as well. And so that's another thing that I like to always bring up, is that when you are building wealth, not only for your family, but you're helping people along the way. Say you're fixing and flipping, you're adding to the money in the pockets of the contractors, of the escrow officers, of the realtors that you're working with. Also, you're providing a place for the next family or people who want to live in it. And then if you're keeping things as rentals, right, you're renting to people that need a place, whether that be Section 8, which I do majority of, or people on assistance, or you're just renting to regular homeowners. They still need a place too. So if you switch your mindset of thinking of how you're adding value, or how you're making a difference, and what you're doing along the way, and the people that you're coming into contact with, or like how even me and you are working together in our on an RV park, is not necessarily like, helping those in need, but we're adding value because right now it's abandoned. It's not being made use at all. So we're going to provide an experience for people who are coming in. So I think that's been the biggest mindset shift that I've tried to, tried to have people think about. Is like, yes, we can always think about negative things, but if we more so make calculated risks and plan out what our next steps are going to be, and also have that emergency fund, have money set away, be careful on how we're spending, and we're not over leveraging ourselves, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, the money doesn't change, it just amplifies what's already there. I used to be a Dave Ramsey disciple. That's where I had first learned that from. He says that all the time about how it doesn't change people necessarily, just makes more of what they. So if you're already a giver, a natural giver, you're going to tip more, you're going to give more. Or if you're already a Scrooge, you're just going to be a much bigger one. Switching gears to the current project. So you talked about our RV park that we're doing, or our campground, glamping, whatever you want to call it. Can you give people some more information about that? Like what it is that we're doing?
Yeah. So there was a couple who approached me about an RV park that they have owned some short-term rentals already in the area. So they knew that there was a lot of demand for just people to go vacation there, bring their RVs, or different type of demand, rather than staying in an actual cabin or a house by the lake. They have the option of setting up their RVs. And so they contacted me and then put me in touch with you. And then we all kind of joined forces. And right now it's an abandoned site. It was a mom and pop owner, and they passed away. So now the siblings are there wanting to sell the project, and it's a flat ground. The city it in also matters too. So whenever you're looking to invest in real estate and projects like these, you have to really know the market. And so our partners really know that market. It's growing. The owner of Bass Pro Shops is going to spend $300 million on a hotel and a water park there. Another amusement park company bought 800 acres. And there's a lot of demand. Our partners went there and seen the influx of people just either moving there or traveling there. And it is a really nice place to be. They call it the Las Vegas of the Midwest. And so that really piqued my interest as far as diversifying. So that's one key thing that I'm doing right now, is I'm trying to diversify my assets, because I have 10 rentals here on Maui. They're 9 long-term and 1 short-term. And then now I'm getting into syndications, which are 100, 200 unit apartment projects. However, that's built with a team. I'm a co-GP on those projects, but now diversifying into RV parks, hotels, storage, everything works. It all comes down to the numbers. And so for this particular project, the projections that we have are amazing, but I can tell you some of the issues that we're having right now is getting a loan because it is a specialty asset. And so I think that's where, Ryan, you're coming into play as well, as helping us kind of determine what options we have as far as your leverage and connections. And then also for me, on the capital side, like thinking about how we can get other investors to help us fund this project.
Yeah, that it seems to be the case whenever you're especially doing like ground up new construction. How do you get a bank to loan against it, especially the concept that we're doing of sort of tents where, what is the bank going to do? Come and take them away? Or they could theoretically blow away, right, if there was a tornado or something. But it's just, looking back now, I would say it's just something we should have, penciled in a little bit more on the front end, of knowing that it was going to be a lot more work. But now, having gone through that deal, at least me personally, that deal as well as another one that I'm working on, it's just adding more tools to my toolkit and knowing what to look for the next time around. At least, what are some other current deals that you're working on or looking forward to working on?
Well, right now I do have 8 flips in progress, and I'm not going to
Wow.
lie, I'm trying to get rid of them all
Mm.
because everybody is seeing the market is totally shifting. There's a lot less buyers out there. There is way more inventory. People are pulling their properties off market. And so now we're going to be shifting to refinancing a few of them to keep them as long-term rentals, or some of them provide corporate housing. So that's a key thing too. Even in this economy, when people are scared, as long as you have multiple exit strategies, then you can kind of weather this storm, and it won't last forever. So I feel like especially if you're partnering with an experienced investor or you're dealing with a team, you have more of you can spread the risk a little bit more. And that's also why I'm getting into more passive investing, such as these syndications, because then I don't have to worry about the day in and day outs. It's 3 to 5 years. The risk is spread out between several years, versus when you're flipping, it's like basically in the first year, you kind of got to determine if it's going to be, a loss or a gain, or you got to get out of that house. Because even the types of loans that you use, say it's private money or hard money, they're typically only a year long. And so in that year, you have to get it renovated, purchase it, get it renovated, sell it, and then still make a profit. And so it's a lot more stressful, shorter timeline.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's basically what I'm focusing on, is more passively investing, and just teaching other people how to passively invest as well. Um, since we are in Branson, in that city, I was also in touch with another investor who's trying to offload, hotels, a theater, a commercial building, just a lot of things in that area, because it is kind of a distance from any kind of major metropolitan area. So he doesn't get out there much. But I feel like if the more you come in contact with people and just let people know what you're doing, the more opportunities will come to you. And especially right now, while the market is slow, especially too because of the holidays, right? Like nobody really wants to make moves on the holidays. Um, so that might be to your benefit if you run your numbers correctly. After this podcast, actually, I'm going to go visit some 3 short-term rental condos that we have here that's on the market. But, I'm still going to shoot my shot and see if we can get something closed before the end of the year. And if the numbers work, then why not? And now we know that the interest rates are like hiking like crazy. So even if, initially you bought something and it was at 3%, now it's like, 6 to 7%. Okay, we're going to see if there's other types of loans that we can get on those properties. So there's the 5-1 ARM loans, there's HELOCs that you can get. You can use hard money to purchase it first and then get a HELOC if there's enough equity. So those are the types of things. You still don't want to buy things at market value, but if you can get a
Mm.
significant discount and then add value to it some way, then there's still options out there for you.
Yeah, the last recent property that I was under contract on, it eventually didn't work out. I had presented them 2 different offers actually. So I came in a little bit below asking price, but with a conventional offer. And, I basically said, hey, look, if you're going to want near your price, I'm going to have to come down here at a conventional offer. That's going to be $30,000 or $40,000 below what you want. But I also followed that up with a second offer to say, hey, if price is what you want, let's call it 500,000. I'll give you the price that you want. I'll actually give you more than that. I'll give you $510,000, but I'm going to need my terms. And so I have two offers: a conventional offer that's lower than the price that they want, and then a seller finance offer that is actually more than they want, but now they have to carry back a note. And so that was something that I had learned from a mentor of mine: is figure out the pain points of the seller, whether or not he or she wants price or terms. Because if he or she is focused on price, well, I'll give them their price, but I want my terms. Versus if they're focused on terms, well, it's going to have to be at my price. Just something that I had learned. So you mentioned that you're doing multiple flip projects at the same time, syndications. Looks like buying single family homes at yourself. What sort of systems or processes do you use in your business or businesses to really help streamline your day to day? So me personally, I have what's called Calendly, and it's this app software where if you wanted to schedule time with me or we wanted to meet together, I can send you a link to my calendar, and then it'll show all the times that I'm personally available to meet with you. And then even if I'm doing, let's say, consulting or whatever, I can also streamline that out to collect payments from people before they're able to meet with me. It is an absolute game changer. I should get a sponsorship from them, but I don't. But I pay about $100 a year to use this, and it's honestly a complete game changer in my business. Do you have like a software or go-to process in your business that works like that?
Yeah, I mean, Calendly is definitely one way to streamline getting meetings, right? Setting up meetings
Mm.
with people and coordinating calls. I also use Asana, which has been huge for me as far as task management. And also you can coordinate with your teams what tasks they have and then where you're at with certain projects. Slack is another one that is very similar that we use that will help you and your team just communicate and everybody be on the same page with things. And then also, I mean, um, just to meet new people, I mean, social media, right? I'm
Mm.
huge on social media communication, making relationships through those platforms. So recently I've been really on LinkedIn because that has been the one social media platform that you get to know other professionals. And as I move from, the single family space, small multifamily to now bigger commercial deals and bigger multifamily, I want to get to know other people who are looking for ways to passively invest. If they're already working their job and they love it, how else can they make money? And that would be to invest in our projects. And so,
Uh, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go.
So I was going to ask, do you respond to all your Instagram DMs?
Majority of them are me and my team. It depends. So it's crazy because I got over 100,000 followers so far up to this point in this year. And a few of them were from viral videos. And so once videos go viral, you get hundreds of messages a day. I'm not even joking about this. And so I hired a team to kind of help me filter through the ones that are just beginning or the people that just have one question and they let me know, hey, this is their question. And then I also filter through those DMs by having a primary inbox, a general
Yeah.
inbox, and then there's message requests. So my team helps me go through the general and message requests. I go through my own primary request. So if I already know you and we've already built a relationship, I just check those. But yeah, I do have them help me. But I also just from time to time go in there and check it myself. But a lot of the questions are pretty simple. Some are very specific. And so for those ones, I do answer them.
And how has LinkedIn kind of changed? So you said you started off at Instagram, but now LinkedIn seems to be where you're focusing more attention to. Um, I've seen people be very successful on LinkedIn. I don't personally post that much on there, but maybe I should reconsider.
Yeah, I mean, that has been a game changer for me as far as making connections in the bigger multifamily space, because that's the direction that I'm moving in. And so I started attending, different sorts of meetups, making connections with people that are already starting funds. They're raising millions of dollars in capital. I was used to doing that on a smaller scale. I mean, I've raised $5 million in the last couple of years. And at one time, I've raised $2 million for my flips from private investors. And so my transition now is to get them to think long term. Like I was saying before, is like, oh, they will be okay lending their money for a year, because in a year their life might change. They might have kids. They might, have changed careers or want to remodel their house or buy a new car. But to have their money out for 3 to 5 years, it really has to be a different type of investor who's looking for more long term interest or payback or cash flow and depreciation. So instead of, investing in a retirement, they'll invest in these longer term investments, take that out and then keep rolling it over. Or for, I've noticed a lot of flippers too, if they are educated in how these rentals and these commercial deals work, they can invest their money there. They can get the depreciation and cash flow without having to worry about managing a single family rental. And so that too, I've been trying to educate some of my friends that do shorter term projects on those types of investments as well. But it's seeming like on LinkedIn, there's more professionals that are higher paid that are looking to invest in these longer term projects. So that's why I kind of shifted. I still focus on Instagram as well. I've raised a lot of money from there, but it seems like LinkedIn is kind of where you can start another community of people that are just focusing on more longer term than shorter term income.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this podcast and you wanted to learn a little bit more about the difference between fix and flip and that long-term mindset that Zosh is talking about, I did a podcast episode probably a couple of months back called Fix and Flip versus Buy and Hold Q&A, and it essentially talks about the differences between short-term wealth building through fix and flip. Those are the guys and gals that get hit the heaviest in taxes. Compared to the long-term buy and holds, whether you're doing the Burr method, or if you listen to my podcast, I teach you to add another step to the Burr method as well. That's going to separate the difference between short-term rental wealth and long-term wealth. And if you can combine the two, which behind the scenes we're working on, right? You can fix and flip as long as you have enough rental properties on the side and you qualify as what's known as a real estate professional. Again, I have other podcasts that go deep into this conversation, but that's a great way to build a lot of wealth and to pay little to nothing to Uncle Sam. Let's go on to 2023. I mean, we're a month out from the new year. What are some of the things that you're excited about going into this next year?
I'm excited about starting a fund. And so the difference between me right now, what I'm doing is raising money for these shorter term projects, these flips, moving into multifamily where we're raising for individual projects, has been great. But now I want to be able to start a fund where we can have people invest with us, make their return, but it doesn't have to be oriented towards a specific project, so that we can just jump and pull that money and put it towards a project immediately. Because a lot of these projects, especially when you're trying to get a deal, you have to move quickly. And so trying to reach out to all these different individuals to see where they're at and then get them to fund, it has been a little bit of a journey to try to corral these people basically and pull their money and then invest it in something. And so we're trying to look for an easier way. Luckily I've met a few people who have started funds and just are guiding me. And even next weekend, I'm going to a capital raising conference that I will learn more in-depth strategies and what people are doing and who they're, getting to invest in their funds and how it all works this next weekend. So I'm excited about that for 2023 and just really being more hands off. So right now, my 9 long-term rentals, I'm very hands-on with it. And it also keeps me humble. So it always reminds me of where I came from, because when I was in affordable housing, I knew the struggle that my mom had to go through to raise us, to make ends meet. And so whenever I do meet up with, these renters that are on Section 8 or on rental assistance, it just makes me a lot grateful for where I'm at today. But also, I want to give back. I love that feeling of they're so appreciative, a lot of them, because whether they had something happen in the past, whether they made some bad financial decisions and they're shifting, it's like, I wish somebody would have gave, my mom a chance to overlook some of these things. And I'm not telling people to do that, because that definitely puts you in that makes you more at risk for them maybe not being able to pay. But when they're on government assistance, a lot of times if they lose their job, Section 8 or the HUD department will come in, step in, and pay that portion that they were supposed to pay. And a lot of times it's very minimal. So majority of my renters, they pay maybe like $50 to $100 a month out of their own pocket in order to pay for the rent. So it's very minimal on how much, if they didn't pay, that you would actually lose, and they would lose their voucher. So a lot of them are hesitant to, they want to pay it so that they continue to get this rental assistance. And then also, whenever I meet them, I let them know, like, hey, I own this property. I put a lot of work and a lot of money into it, and I made it nice, just for you. And I would appreciate that same respect. Over these years, there has been a bad connotation of, people on Section 8 ruining properties and things like that. But I come from a more genuine aspect of, I want to meet them in person so I can let them know, like, you're not just dealing with a property management company, you're dealing with an actual real person, a real family. Whatever you do is going to affect my family. And so I feel like when you come at it of a more human aspect, people will appreciate that more. And so that's why I've had success. I mean, I've had one kind of not so good renter out of all of, over the past 3 years. So, I mean, I'll take that any day. And I've had one person that I had to start an eviction. They weren't even on Section 8. They were a regular renter, but I had to start the eviction process. However, I didn't have to go to court or continue it. They eventually ended up moving out. And so, there are risks to investing in real estate, and more so when you are, kind of doing it on your own. It's a little bit more stressful than, like I said, partnering with other people, investing in these huge multifamily deals. You don't have to be directly responsible for these renters.
If there's one piece of advice that you could give to somebody, what would it be?
Real estate related, or just in general CPA related, or
Anything? Just give me something. This is very spontaneous. I didn't even ask you this, so
okay. So one piece of advice I would give, if you are looking to invest, if you're looking to change your, financial position, is definitely get around people that are doing what you want to do, or people that are kind of on the same journey as you. So you have that inspiration around you, you have that will and that drive and that motivation to work towards something. And especially when you're, in mentorships or go to masterminds or conferences, you're around other people that have the same goals as you, or other people already achieving those goals, so you know what's possible. And I think that's made the biggest difference in my life. I started out, investing on my own, bought a couple properties and made a lot of mistakes. And it wasn't until I joined a mentorship where I was actually able to scale to now buy 10 rentals, now be involved in 100, 200 unit apartment deals. And I feel comfortable with it, right? Because it all comes down to the numbers. And when you break it down to the basics, and then also your connections, you have other people to fall back on, take the responsibility, or even connect you with somebody that could help solve your problems. I feel like that has been the major game changer in my career. And what I would suggest to anybody starting out is get around other people, whether that is through meetups, mentorships, conferences. Just get around people that are doing what you want to do.
Yeah, that was important for me because if you're the smartest, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because you're never going to elevate to a bigger platform. And it's the same thing with the goldfish in a fish tank metaphor. They can only grow to the size of the fish bowl, so sometimes they got to be in a tank instead of a bowl. But where can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you, see what else you have going on, and where can they find you?
I'm most active on Instagram, and I found that there's a really great community on there of learning just quick tips and getting these motivational, inspiration from it. And then also on LinkedIn, however, that I'm still trying to learn that platform. So if you don't mind, like I'm still going through the process of learning it. But Instagram, definitely, I post stories. Even today, I'll be posting some stuff about the properties that I'm seeing. So if you're interested in real estate investing at all, follow me. If you're interested in anything to do with Hawaii, follow me, investing in paradise, or even how I juggle it all as being a mom, entrepreneur, investor. Me and my husband have our own separate businesses. So he's not really involved in the real estate investing side. So I basically do it on my own. But yeah, you can follow me on there. Invest with Zasha is my Instagram handle.
Okay, so it's at Invest with Zasha. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure our audience got a lot of good clarity and a lot of good information from this podcast, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Aloha.
Thanks for tuning into today's show, guys. We had so much value from Zasha. If you want to check her out on Instagram, Twitter, it's going to be at Invest with Zasha. She talked a lot about being a passive investor and how that's different from being very hands-on investor. And the tax code is also treated the same way.